to be.
The Justice for Families video crew is here in Bel Air, Maryland to expose the unlawful incarceration of Sylvia Stoimanova Huzoris to kidnap her son. Sylvia is from Bulgaria. She immigrated here and married into a wealthy family in the Bel Air area. Sylvia's ex-husband, Nick Huzoris, has a documented history of aggravated assault against Sylvia. As a result, Mr. Nick Huzoris does not have the standing to be a custodial parent. So he set about to have Sylvia unlawfully incarcerated so that he could get custody of their child. Exhibit 2 contains a doctor's report from 2005 which contains threats Mr. Huzoris was making that if she tried to divorce him, he would get rid of her and take their child. Exhibits 3 and 4 contain police reports and protective orders to protect Ms. Huzoris from Mr. Nick Huzoris's aggravated assaults. Subsequently, Mr. Huzoris killed the family dog that Sylvia loved so much. He didn't have the dog put down, but killed it with a shotgun to terrorize and control his wife and their son. Mr. Huzoris and his influential family hired an insider lawyer. He suborned the judges in this court to railroad Sylvia into jail without a trial, without being able to confront her accusers. All of this is posted on the Justice for Families website. I am Zed McLarnon. I am Sylvia's expert witness, her forensic investigator. I wrote a report which they never let me submit to the court. They railroaded Sylvia into jail so that they could unlawfully award custody of her child to her abusive husband. They took advantage of the fact that Sylvia went to Canada to visit extended family with her son. They issued a warrant, an Amber Alert, to arrest Sylvia for child abduction, which is totally fabricated. When she was returning from Canada, she was arrested at the border. Sylvia produced evidence for the border guards that showed that she had informed her husband that she was going to Canada with their son. She had sole custody, so she didn't need permission. When the border guards reviewed her evidence, they called Judge Carr here at the courthouse and told him that they were freeing Sylvia because his warrant was unfounded. Sylvia then went to New York, driving back to Maryland, where she was arrested for a second time. She had a trial in New York, and the chief administrative judge there found her innocent, closed the case, and said that the warrant to have her arrested was unfounded. When she got back to Maryland, they arrested her for a third time. Since she had ample evidence of her innocence, including 2 authorities already finding her innocent, they dispensed with a trial, and her own public defender, Howard Greenberg, accused her of being not competent to stand trial. In other words, they're saying she was crazy. They threw her in jail and had forced psychiatric interrogation. In other words, a state psychiatrist interviewed her for 7 minutes through the bars of her cell. They declared her not competent to stand trial in defiance of the fact that a renowned forensic psychiatrist, Dr. Patricia McGraw, had done an in-depth 20-hour evaluation of Sylvia. Now, Dr. McGraw was the psychiatrist of Sylvia's choice. She found Sylvia to be completely competent and a good parent to her son. I interviewed Dr. McGraw, and she told me of a horrific experience that she had in this courthouse. They brought her in, and Judge Waldron lambasted her, screamed at her, and drove her out of the courtroom because they wanted to dispense with her in-depth evaluation of Sylvia and replace it with the horror of the court, Dr. Witzak, the state psychiatrist. Dr. Witzak would not answer our inquiries as to what she based her evaluation of Sylvia on. Sylvia competently presented her evidence to the border guards. She competently presented her evidence to the New York judge, and she competently presented her evidence to the U.S. Attorney's Office here in Baltimore, who also said that there was something seriously wrong going on here at the Bel Air courthouse. State Attorney Joseph Casilli and the local prosecutor Diane Tobin continued the prosecution despite the fact that she had been found innocent by 3 authorities. They ignored all of that, declared her incompetent, and put her in a maximum security mental institution, the Perkins Hospital Center. When Sylvia first was unlawfully incarcerated here, the staff psychiatrist found her to be competent. Yet, 2 years later, she's still here at a maximum security mental institution. Even though she has been deemed competent, they still hold Sylvia here under the threat that if she doesn't stop talking about attorney and judicial corruption, she's never going to get out of here. Of course, that's what put her here, is judicial corruption, because she's a perfectly competent person who has done no wrong. This is happening in states all across America. Sylvia's been cut off from virtually all communication. Even though I'm her expert witness and forensic investigator, they don't allow her to communicate with me. On the few occasions that I have been able to communicate with Sylvia by phone, when they find out she's on the phone, they attack her physically and wrench the phone out of her hands so that she can't communicate with the outside world, trying to isolate her and drive her insane. I've heard Nurse Renee Williams screaming at her for being on the phone, and she's the one who instigated the attacks on Sylvia and hanging up on us. Sylvia was forced to take psychotropic medication, which is also against the law, and when I tried to get the transcripts of the hearings, I was refused copies of the transcript. The reason why? She doesn't need psychotherapeutic medication. She's a completely competent person. We're here at the Maryland Office of the Public Defender. We had complained to Public Defender Paul DeWolf about Harford County Public Defender Howard Greenberg's selling Sylvia Houdzouris out. He claimed that she was non-competent after she had fired him. She fired him. The judge and the public defender's office wouldn't let him be fired. Why? Because he was the one who claimed that Sylvia was not competent, her own lawyer. This is happening all over the country, not just to Sylvia. I haven't run into a case where a public defender has actually pleaded innocent for his client. All they care about is getting a plea bargain and handling more and more caseloads. When we complained to Public Defender DeWolf about Greenberg's malfeasance, he wrote a letter commending Public Defender Greenberg for his actions in Sylvia's case, commending him for selling out his client. Neither Public Defender DeWolf nor Greenberg in Harford County could refute any of the allegations that we made about their malfeasance regarding Sylvia's case. We're here at the offices of the Attorney General of Maryland, Douglas Gansler. He would not appear on camera to answer our allegations about the malfeasance of the state's attorney, Casilli, regarding the malicious prosecution of Sylvia Houdzouris. Attorney General Gansler's malfeasance and corruption is reflected across America. Most attorney generals do not police their state's attorneys. They carry out a malicious prosecution for profit racketeering scheme here in Maryland and just about every state across America. We're here at the United States District Courthouse in Baltimore, Maryland. This is where Sylvia's mother and several of her next friends submitted a habeas corpus to have Sylvia released because of the judicial and attorney corruption involved in her case. U.S. District Court Judge Motz used fraud to dismiss Sylvia's habeas corpus petition. Your tax dollars are supporting federal courthouses like this across the country where federal judges cover up the crimes of state judges. So where do you go when you've been unlawfully incarcerated to have your son or daughter kidnapped from you in state courts by state judges and lawyers that are corrupt and commit malfeasance on a daily basis? Where do you go when you come to federal courts like this for relief and you run into yet more corruption? Where do you go? Sylvia visited the U.S. Attorney's office here with a witness who stated in an affidavit that Assistant U.S. Attorney Richard Kay said that there's something seriously wrong in Harford County courts. Yet, the U.S. Attorney, Rod Rosenstein, did nothing. Your tax dollars are funding U.S. attorneys across the country that allow states to operate courts as criminal enterprises. And the Department of Justice, in which Eric Holder is the head, allows courts to kidnap children and throw their parents into mental institutions. How can state and federal courts operate overtly as criminal enterprises? Because media outlets like the Baltimore Sun here refuse to report on the capital crimes that occur in state and federal courthouses. I submitted Sylvia's evidence to 2 journalists at the Baltimore Sun. They refused to report on her story and report of the crimes that occur in state and federal court. They virtually told me to get lost. They don't care. The Aegis is Bel Air's local newspaper. It's owned by the Baltimore Sun. They incorrectly reported that Sylvia's husband had sole custody and Sylvia abducted their child. I contacted the editor and asked him to correct the article, but he refused. As a result, the community believes that Sylvia abducted her child. This is an example of how judges control the record in Harford County courts and newspapers, who knowingly use fraud to railroad Sylvia Houzuris into jail. We're here in front of the law offices of John Karras and Daniel Donlick. These lawyers are typical of corrupt lawyers across the country who have influence over judges to railroad innocent parents into jail to unlawfully award custody of children. It's human trafficking of children for profit. We're in Annapolis, Maryland, at the governor's mansion. Governor Martin O'Malley, I've been in contact with his office regarding unlawful incarceration of Sylvia Houzuris and the overt corruption of Attorney General Gansler, Public Defender DeWolf, State's Attorney Gasilli, specifically asking him to comment or to refute our charges that his administration offers a service to corrupt judges and lawyers to get rid of, unlawfully incarcerate vulnerable single mothers like Sylvia. To date, neither Governor O'Malley, Attorney General Gansler, Public Defender DeWolf, none of them have been able to refute any of the allegations regarding the unlawful incarceration of Sylvia to kidnap her son. How can the O'Malley administration pretend to uphold the convictions of Thurgood Marshall when they are railroading innocent citizens of Maryland into jail to kidnap their children?
Law office.
May I speak to Camilla, please?
This is she.
Camilla, hi. This is Zed McLaren. I spoke to you before regarding Sylvia Houzuris.
Yes.
We're in town shooting a documentary on Sylvia's case, and I was wondering if we could get together with you to discuss your part of the case.
No, I'm not interested in doing that, Zed, but thank you for the offer.
You sure you don't want to help out your client?
She's no longer my client. I was not her attorney. I was her guardian ad litem.
Right, but one of the things you said to me before was that you didn't understand why she was in the Perkins.
Zeb, I'm sorry, I'm not going to get involved in this, but thank you for the offer.
Okay, well, we'll download your website and narrate over it and tell everybody what you did. Okay?
No, that's not okay.
Well, it's going to be okay because that's what we're going to do. You're not going to get away with doing what you did